Hello everybody and welcome. And I'm so used to saying to our Life or Biz Wisdom for this week. But of course in our Facebook group we've got change themes days, so today isn't Life or Biz Wisdom. Well, it sort of is, but I've chosen, I think, to call my contribution to the group today on Mondays is Helen's Monday Focus, because of course focus is the new hashtag for our group today. Hello Carol, lovely to see you. And of course, along with the different hashtag theme days, of course, is the new Facebook group name itself, and I hope that you are enjoying it. For me, it was something that I felt that I needed to do with regards to really standing in my own truth, that my specialty is productivity. It's the bones of what it is that I do with clients, help clients with, but I take very much a creative and spiritual approach. And in fact, that's what I'm going to be talking about tonight. And so I felt that Biz Life Success is still as much a part of this group as it always was, because for me, the term productivity relates to success in life. It's our pathway to success. And of course, that depends on one's definition probably of productivity. And so I have the definition that's really quite broad. And I tend to think of productivity as personal responsibility. It's also personal. I tend to focus on personal productivity rather than, and maybe in small teams rather than, in big companies, for instance. And very much believe, as a lot of others do, that managing our time is around managing ourselves. So I have a huge emphasis on personal growth and the creative and spiritual approaches to traditional productivity methods. So welcome, and I wanted to talk tonight about flexibility and productivity and what I refer to as flexibility. And the reason I did that is because tomorrow our hashtag for the day, the theme of the day is flexibility. And I thought it would probably be useful for me to explain a little bit about what I mean with regards to that. So you're probably very familiar with the usual way of doing things in terms of writing a list that tends to be, one after the other, a linear sort of way of just crossing one thing off, moving down to the next thing on the list, and then the next thing beyond that. And there's certainly not a lot of flexibility, and I find that really quite dry. And also it doesn't give us any sense of prioritization. We tend to, most of us, start at the top and go down to the bottom. And that's not necessarily the best way to do it, because what's at the top may not be the highest priority. And we're used to doing setting goals. A lot of you may be familiar with the SMART goal acronym, S-M-A-R-T, specific, measurable, achievable, or attainable, can be either way, relevant or realistic, could be either way, and time-bound or time-sensitive. And that focuses very much on the quantitative aspects of us getting our goals achieved, getting things done that will help us to get our goals achieved. And that can be around, I have walked X kilometers today. I have generated 50 new leads in my business for this month. Or, there's a number usually, or a yes, no, a binary to it. But when we think about the creative spiritual, we're bringing in the qualitative that may not actually have a number. And so it may not be so easily defined, except to say that it's often about how we are inspired about something, how we feel about doing things, that to me is just as important as just doing them. And so it's using what is termed the right brain, which tends to be, looks at patterns and symbols and colors and creativity and spirituality and emotions and relationships and what else? Intuition and all of those, what might be considered soft ways of being, as opposed to the hard and fast and the background that I come from in corporate, of the project management of you've got all your lists and you just your goals, your tasks, you've got your time frames, and that's the way you do it. So for a lot of people, how they would structure their week is in essence similar to that, where there's a lot of people, and I don't know if you do it yourself, a lot of people that actually schedule in every little bit of their day just about. They might do it, say, for every half an hour. And a lot of, probably most productivity experts would say that's what you should be doing. Because, thank you for the thumbs up or the hearts. Hello, Adair, lovely to see you. Thank you. So they're used to, as I was saying, a lot of productivity experts actually say to do that. Because when, what is there's that saying, when it's scheduled, it gets done. And yes, I agree with that to an extent, and I'll explain why I don't agree with that completely in a moment. So there is this belief that if we account every little bit of time, then we're more likely to do the thing that we've actually scheduled at that time frame. It will help to remind us because we have it in our calendar, our diary, that hopefully we're looking at during the day. Because that's the other thing. Hello, Karina. Thanks for watching. Helen, I'm sure that would be productive for some. I'd choke. Just the thought gives me, this is exactly what I'm getting to. Heebie-jeebies. Yes, love that word. And that's exactly what I'm getting at, is that, as I said, this philosophy, this way of thinking that if we schedule everything, we will get it done. The fact that we even go to schedule it means that we've got some sort of association in our minds, and we can go through the day and get to the end of the day and think, wow, that was a great day. I did everything on my calendar. And that's, being productive. And I'm not going to argue, it certainly is. And you may feel that you've actually achieved a lot. But for those of us who are more creative and spiritual, that can be, like Adair said, the heebie-jeebies, that can be the worst thing in the world. It can feel suffocating. Do we really have to be that anal though? Well, that's the thing. And I'm not saying that everyone does that who uses a calendar, because not everybody schedules in, to the nth degree, like every half an hour sort of thing. You might put in your main appointments or meetings in your diaries or calendars. Is that what you do? I don't know. I'd be interested to put it in the comments what you currently do. So, as I said, for those of us who that doesn't work for, then there's a real issue. And I was, because of my corporate training, very much in the left, what I call a left brain world, I just did that. I was so used to that. It was so habitual. But what I found over time was that it was suffocating me. It was like, oh God, I don't feel like doing that thing right now. Yes, it's important, but do I really have to do it now? And feeling like I couldn't breathe, because there wasn't any buffer, what I call white space, and other productivity gurus or experts will say that as well. It's really good when we want to, it's that balance thing, isn't it? We want to have the priorities somehow captured for us in our diary or calendar, but not to the point where we feel, like I said, that we are being constrained too much with it. Because, and this is why I called the group Productivity Rebels, is we will rebel when we have that sort of personality and that tendency. And there's nothing wrong with that. In corporate, yes, we use the Franklin Covey time management. I know, the urgent and important. I actually do really like his system, but I tend to put my own spin on it, which is a lot more flexible. So hence the topic for tonight. So if you can resonate with this, and it sounds like you can, Adair, if the look of your day in your diary or calendar is just a nightmare in terms of having too much packed into it, and often it can be almost exhausting before we even start, then what I can suggest that you do is to have a more flexible approach. Adair, if you know Gay Hendricks, I absolutely love Gay Hendricks. He's one of my absolute heroes. He talks about the difference. Oh, I know. Oh my God, we're going to have an offline conversation, Newtonian and Einstein time. I know that I'll do another Facebook Live on that. It'd take too much time now, but very much he has, for those of you who don't know Gay Hendricks, he's a psychologist in the States, and he has written an absolutely wonderful book called, oh my God, I've got a mental blank. He's got the fishbowl, and it's around the glass ceiling that we will tend to, if Adair or anyone can remember that, I can't believe it, it's on my Kindle, which is only over there. It'll come to me. Anyway, he talks about a glass ceiling and that we would tend to sabotage ourselves if we have an upper limit problem, which is the term that he uses. The Big Leap, thank you universe, the Big Leap it's called. Anyway, in that book, he talks about Ericksonian and Newtonian time, which is a way of basically the Einstein time, Newtonian time is our traditional way of thinking about time, and it's very linear and again, probably more a quantitative focus. And then there's Newtonian, as in after Isaac Newton, where we can actually bend time and shape time. And I love his way of thinking, that we can perceive time in a different way and we can actually shorten time or expand time. The Big Leap, thank you, Adair, yeah. And that might sound like, what? How can you make time shorter or bigger? And it is possible. So I will save that for another Facebook Live, and I'll talk about that whole concept. So getting back to the flexibility. So as I said, for those of us who do tend to be more right brain, creative, spiritual, then what can be a middle path, as you will, which actually we need some structure or some shaping, which is the way that I like to call it. Structure just sounds a bit too left brain for me these days. And so if we were to have no structure at all, or no shaping, no containment, which is a word that I use quite a bit, then we would probably be all over the place. We probably wouldn't even put anything in a diary or calendar. And therefore, we may not have very much accountability. And often what can happen, and this is what I find with some clients, is that they might start off with the day with things in their head about what they want to do, but they're often fairly vague, and they're often not, they're not joined to anything, so to speak, in terms of bigger, I don't like to use the word goals, I talk about inspired actions to progress their life and their business forward, So they can be a bit all over the place. So we don't want that. We want some containment or shaping, but we don't want to go back to that suffocating every moment being, needing to be accounted for and being a slave to our diary or our calendar. So the middle path that I was referring to is having this flexible approach where you actually block off periods of time in your day for certain priorities that you have in your life or in your business. And I'll talk about those in a moment. And within that time period, you can use your inspiration. You can be inspired about what to do that relates to that particular priority for that time period. So I'll explain this in a little bit more detail because it is a little bit different concept. Having said that, other productivity experts do talk about theming days, theming parts of the day. And what I'm talking about is really theming the parts of the day. Ooh, can't wait for that one. The Facebook Live. Thank you, Adair. Yeah. I've either done that or it's been a post, social media post. Anyway, I will do that another time. So when you actually can think about what I have done for myself, which has worked really well, is to think about the areas of my business and then the areas of my life more generally that are the main priority areas, the main almost categories, if you like, and actually then book myself in, I don't like that word schedule, into my calendar for the time periods for those. each week. So if I give examples, so in my business, I have booked in a morning and an afternoon session on content creation. So that's around developing social media posts, writing blogs, that sort of thing. So that falls into my area of business, priority in business of marketing. I also have, of course, client work, direct client work. So there are particular times of the week that I prefer to see clients, work with clients. So I block that off. And I like to allow a little bit of a buffer. Oh, I can cope with that. Theming parts of my day sounds great. Thank you, Adair. Yeah. And so what I'm getting at is that you might block off, I usually suggest a couple of hours. And the reason that I do that is that, and this is for me, and again, if you are particularly creative, it can once you get into the flow, you don't want to stop. When you do, I don't know if you've ever heard of Cal Newport, has a great book called Deep Work. And when we get into our deep work, which might be writing a blog post, for instance, it could well be working with clients for sure. It can be doing other areas, even our financials, which once I get started, because I don't love numbers, once I get started though, I'm into the flow. And that's why if we protect, inverted commas, a good 2 hours, maybe even 3, and you want to perhaps experiment with this and see what works for you, so that you can get that main priority area, work within that, done in that time period. Now, what you then do with the flexibility is, say it comes tomorrow morning and I've got content creation as my morning, what I call a focus session. And so it means that I've got 2 hours blocked where I can be working on my content for social media or, as I said, it could be blog posts, web page, whatever. So I'm creating content. So I know that is my priority at that time. And that's a regular appointment, so to speak, that I have with that area of my business. But within that, I have the flexibility to decide what it is that I'm specifically working on. And when it comes to tomorrow morning, I might feel inspired to do X, a particular post, for instance, or writing something, whatever, a sales copy page. Or it might be that I actually want to do a whole lot of videos. Or it might be that I decide that, what else for content creation? I'm updating my web pages on my website. And so we have that time protected where there's that containment, but within that is the flexibility to work on what inspires you, what feels right for you in the moment, what you think will be fun, because who said productivity wasn't meant to be fun? Oh my God, whoever said that, or that belief is just so outdated and boring. But the trick is though, it has to be things that will progress your business and that you have ideally previously identified as inspired actions or goals, tasks if you want that sort of language, that will definitely progress your business in some way. In other words, it's not sitting there tomorrow morning. I'm not going to be sitting there and think, what do I want to do? Oh, I'll just write a sentence or two or whatever. It's actually, it's focusing on things that you have previously identified that are going to progress your business for whatever specific reason. But you might have a pool of activities that you can choose from. And I don't know about you, but I would much prefer to be able to choose from a small pool. If we have too many choices, a confused mind says no, too many choices isn't good. But say 3 or 4 choices that are going to progress, as I said, your business for you, that you've previously identified, and decide out of those ones which is going to work for you to be focusing on in that time. And you would do that for all the major areas of your business. So if you haven't thought about what those major areas are, then I'd actually suggest that you take some time and actually do that. Because this theming, as in THEMING, can really help you. I don't know if anyone has, if any of you have actually tried this before. If you have, that's great. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. And if you haven't, I really do suggest that you give that a go, particularly if you feel you're not always so certain what you should be working on at any particular time. I find when I have these priority areas worked out for my week, as I said, 2 or maybe 3 hour blocks of time, that really helps me to be focused. It also means that the major areas of our business and our life more generally are being taken care of. I'm not doing the finances because I don't really like numbers really well, and I think it's boring and difficult and I don't want to do it. It means that we're catering, we're putting our attention on the major things, and we're having the containment with the protected time. So you're not going to be making appointments at that time, for instance, that don't relate to your priority area at that time. You can do that in your break in the middle of the day or whatever time's going to work for you, but you really do need to protect that time. Now, what happens then, of course, is those things that you don't do. Let's say I had chose 1 out of the 4 things. I know that I can progress those in another another block of time that I have booked into my calendar, either later that week or the following week, etc. I've sort of done it and love the idea of being more purposeful about it. Thank you, Adair. Yeah. It's something to consider. I have got on my calendar colours. My priority areas are colour themed, and I just know by the colour what it is that I'm planning to do. Plus, it's become a regular part of my schedule. And for me, it allows enough, as I said, enough containment that I get the major things that I need getting done, but also allows that bit of flexibility. Now, of course, life does get in the way. It's not meant to be set in concrete. We're not wanting to be suffocating, but it does provide that balance. I honestly think that this is the balance between, as I said, overscheduling and feeling pressured by that, but also feeling almost, for some people, a sense of anxiety when it's like, oh my God, I've got so much to do. I don't know how I'm going to get it all done. What should I be doing first? And that's really, it is anxiety provoking in itself. So you've sort of got 2 extremes. And this, I do believe, as I've said, is an opportunity for the middle path, a balance. You can do it in your life more broadly. It could be things like a priority area being, I hate to say, housework. I'd like to call it house play, but I don't know that it really is. But it means that I'm on top of things most of the time, regularly, rather than feeling like the weekend's gone, for instance, because I don't want to do housework during the week. That's my choice. That I'm actually getting it done rather than putting it off, and then, of course, it just gets bigger and bigger. I can do it for my exercise, physical activity. That's my protected time. Other family routines, just everyday things when you think about it. And it doesn't mean that you are locked in too much. You can change those priority times around. Do that. But the thing is that need to pop out. I know, yes. I'm actually going to join you there in just a moment. That time has escaped us. But just know that you can move those priority areas around. But please do make sure that you are thinking about what are the major areas of your work that you've got to do, allowing time, enabling time in your calendar for the week, and protecting that time. And then when you get to that, to the time to be doing whatever that priority area is, the work in that you've got a few options that you can then be flexible, use your inspiration, meditate beforehand, center yourself if that's what you would like to do, and start to do it knowing that you're going to get into the flow because you've got a decent length of time devoted to it. So I will leave it there. Any questions as usual, any comments, please put them below. I hope this helps you with regards to thinking about flexibility in your business. Obviously for the hashtag for tomorrow, but more importantly for yourselves, both in your business and your life going forward. I will leave it there for now. Wishing you all a great rest of the night. Namaste. Bye for now.